Jon Arryn, the Warden of the Vale, and his role in what became Robert's Rebellion cannot be understated. When King Aerys II Targaryen demanded the heads of Lord Robert Baratheon and Lord Eddard Stark, Jon Arryn could very easily have handed the young men over to the Mad King, and with that the rebellion would have ended in a moment. In fact, it would never have been. His choice to protect his former wards, to call his banners to seek out justice for the murders of Lord Rickard Stark and young Brandon would cause a cascade of alliances built up over decades to call their banners alongside. The truth is, the events that prelude all this being possible happened decades ago, when Jon Arryn was still a young man. Jon was born as the eldest son of Lord Jasper Arryn. He had a younger brother, Ronald, and a sister, Alice. As his father's heir, Jon served as the keeper of the Gate of the Moon, and after his father's death and Jon's ascension as Lord of the Vale, he named his brother Ronald, and later his cousin Dennis, to that position. He had been married several times by this point, but none of these marriages, until now, had managed to produce a living heir. Jon's first wife was Jane Royce, who died in childbed, their daughter stillborn. His second marriage was to Rowena Arryn, a cousin, who died of a winter chill during a childless marriage. The widower status and lack of heir will later play a key part in what made the alliances supporting Robert's Rebellion so impactful. Much of this can actually be traced back to the War of the Ninepenny Kings, fought against Maelys Blackfire and the Band of Nine in 260 AC, when Jon had just about entered his 40s. He had fought for King Aerys II Targaryen, along with most of the lords of Westeros. It was during this war on the Stepstones that Jon had become friends with Lord Rickard Stark of Winterfell and Lord Steffon Baratheon of Storm's End, with this friendship later resulting in Jon taking their sons, Eddard and Robert, as his wards at the Eyrie in 271 AC. When Eddard was 8 years of age, Robert around a year older. The two boys grew extremely close, some say as close as blood brothers, even coming to see the childless Jon as a second father. It is also believed that around the same time, Jon had refused to foster the grandsons of Lord Walder Frey, Lord of the Twins, which some have put forward may have factored into the late addition of House Frey to Robert's banner towards the end of the rebellion. The War of the Ninepenny Kings, when looked back on in context of events that have now transpired, does indeed stand out as a war which brought the great lords of Westeros closer than ever before, with many lifelong friendships born in the bloodshed on the Stepstones. Importantly for this story, we know that Jon also had fought alongside Lord Hoster Tully of Riverrun. It is no coincidence that these four lords of Stark, Baratheon, Arryn and Tully forming this relationship would one day result in such unexpectedly strong and steadfast opposition to King Aerys II. While King Aerys II was certainly a paranoid man, there was little evidence to suggest there was any true plot involving these houses to overthrow the king prior to the kidnap of Lyanna Stark and the murders of Rickard and Brandon. But what Aerys failed to realise was these great houses didn't need to be plotting his downfall. Such was the close relationship between them. Calling for the heads of Eddard and Robert, of course, turned these close friends into firm allies. The first thing Jon Arryn had to do was ensure his wards got back to their seats in Storm's End and Winterfell, so they could call their own banners and rally their own men. This was even more vital in the case of Eddard, whose ascension to lordship was not just very sudden, but highly unexpected, given he was the second son of Lord Rickard. Thus it was vital for Eddard to return north and consolidate his position and rally his men for the long march south that was now surely to come. But as with anything with the history of Westeros, there was a complication. While Jon Arryn was widely respected among the Vale Lords, there was still a handful who ignored Jon's calling of his banners and instead remained loyal to the Iron Throne and King Aerys II, specifically House Grafton, the Lords of Gulltown, the Vale's largest town and only true port. Thus getting the young Lord of Winterfell north would not be an easy task. Thus the first mission for the rebels would be for Jon Arryn to consolidate the Vale and deal with the loyalists of Aerys II in Gulltown. Given the high walls around the town, this required a siege that would occupy the loyalists as Eddard Stark was safely removed from the Vale. While Jon Arryn, his bannermen, and Robert Baratheon marched for Gulltown, Eddard crossed the Mountains of the Moon with a small escort to the Fingers, where a fisherman was hired to bring him across the bay north to White Harbour. But Eddard Stark's testing adventure is a tale for another time. The taking of Gulltown, while bloody, was not the largest or fiercest battle to fill the pages of history, but nonetheless important. The reality is, the outcome was never actually in question. House Grafton had stayed loyal to King Aerys II, for what reasons we cannot say, but given Jon Arryn had the backing of most of the remaining Vale Lords, the taking of the town, in essence, was more of a formality. It is not clear when Robert Baratheon decided to press his own claim to the throne, but the fact he actively fought during the taking of Gulltown suggests that at this stage the idea of Robert becoming king was not one that had been discussed, given the danger Robert would have put himself in by taking part in the attack. But it must be said, during the taking of Gulltown, Robert Baratheon is said to have fought very well. He slew Mark Grafton with his now famed warhammer. With the port now taken, Robert was able to sail south to Storm's End to rally his own men as the rebellion, that was not yet called Robert's, grew. The taking of Gulltown by Jon Arryn allowed the defenders of the Vale to consolidate rebel control in the Vale of Arryn. Lyn Corbray famously won his knighthood fighting alongside House Grafton at the gates of Gulltown, but he joined Lord Arryn after the battle. The Vale was now firmly behind Jon Arryn. Eddard Stark was on his way north, Robert Baratheon south, but even so, it is said that the Mad King could still not see the threat these rebels posed, the cascading alliances forming against his rule. Yes, this rebellion came at the hands of Prince Rhaegar, but not in the way that Aerys had feared. His son lit the flame of war, and now the Mad King, despite his dislike for his heir, must defend him. Likewise, it was unclear what the goal of the rebels was at this time. The obvious answer would be the return of Lyanna Stark, and justice for the murder of Lord Rickard and Brandon, along with the other Northmen. But what would the end result of this look like? Robert would certainly want Rhaegar's life for the kidnap of his betrothed. Eddard Stark would of course want the return of his sister and to avenge the deaths of his family. Thus the Mad King Aerys could not be allowed to continue ruling. It creates a political black hole. Do they make the young Prince Viserys king and form a regency council like was done in the wake of the Dance of the Dragons? Or was this really the end of the House of the Dragon? Was the blood now tainted? At what point was it conveniently recalled that Robert Baratheon's own grandmother was a Targaryen? When did the idea of King Robert Baratheon first come to mind, and by whom? When did this rebellion in fact become Robert's?